All right, Dalton. Now we'll get to the meat of the show, which is previewing the 4 New Year's Six bowl games that aren't college football playoff semifinals. Like we mentioned before, we will preview the college football playoff obviously next week in full detail. We'll do a full, long preview for both those games. Obviously, only 2 games that we're previewing that week, so we'll do a big preview for those 2 semifinals. But let's also talk about the 4 non-playoff New Year's Six bowl games as well, because those obviously matter a lot as well. And the first one we're talking about is the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic between number 7 Ohio State and number 9 Missouri, which is on Friday, December 29th at 8 o'clock on ESPN Eastern Time. Kind of just to, again, talk about the notable opt-outs in this game like we did for the best non-New Year's Six Bowl games. For Ohio State right now is currently just Kyle McCord, the starting quarterback, who of course transferred to Syracuse in the correct move. And their running back, Chip Trainum, he is transferring as well to Kentucky, and Julian Fleming, the receiver, is transferring. We don't know yet. Hopefully Penn State, we'll see, but he is transferring as well. There is a chance that Ohio State could be without Marvin Harrison Jr. We don't know what his plans are yet. Also, JT Tuimoloau has not announced his intentions yet. Travion Henderson has not announced his intentions yet. And Michael Hall Jr. has not announced his intentions yet. So those 4, we don't know. Emeka Egbuka is playing in this game, as well as some other top prospects for Ohio State. But Harrison, Tuimoloau, Henderson, and Michael Hall, we don't know yet. So as of recording right now, we don't know what they're going to do. As for Missouri, this is their first New Year's Six game in a decade, and they don't have anyone that's opting out right now. So Missouri should be at full strength going into this game, Dalton. So what are you looking forward to most in this game between Missouri and Ohio State?
It's assuming, obviously Harrison's the big story, but assuming a lot of those defensive guys opt in, I think it's a game of Missouri's offense versus Ohio State's defense, right? If Ohio State will be running a backup quarterback out there, probably Devin Brown, most
Yeah, it
likely.
will be Devin Brown, yeah.
Okay, then I think you're going to see probably an even more conservative game plan than the ones they ran with McCord, and it's going to be about keeping it a low-scoring game, right? Ohio State this year is a defensive team. I'm curious to see where Missouri's at and with their offense, because it's funny, the first half of the year, real high-flying, Luther Burden, obviously the screen game after the catch, but getting down the field, they were very explosive. And the second half of the year after they lost to LSU, they turned into a team with much more balance, a lot more running. Cody Schrader just putting the team on his back at times, man. I'll give you the example. The first 6 games, he had 95 carries, just about 16 a game. The last 6, 143, closer to 24 carries a game. They leaned on him. Their pass protection wasn't quite as good the second half of the year. Cook was holding the ball a little longer as a result. And they just became this team. It was more running, more play action off of it, not asking Cook to do too much, and they're still the fifth best run blocking team in the country. So I'm curious to see what angle Missouri comes in this game with an extra month to prepare. Luther Burden was playing through a hamstring issue later in the season that kind of hindered the explosiveness at times. It just wasn't as common as it was in the first half of the season. Are they going to ride Schrader and try to be physical with Ohio State? Are they going to try to spread them out and maybe try to work Burden up the seams as they often have? Or I would like to see them work more of the screen game, because they kind of got away from it the second half of the year. I was really impressed early in the year with the variety and just the effectiveness of their screen game, and they kind of got away from it. Part of that, I think, was Burden's injury. He basically didn't play in the Kentucky game. I think he played in maybe part of the first quarter and then was just done for the day, and they won anyway. And that was really a big day for them, because they found out they didn't have to ride Burden to victories. They could get on Schrader's back. They could run the ball. Really good offensive line. We've talked about Javon Foster should be getting some first-round hype. I'm very curious where Kirby Moore goes with this game plan, especially if Ohio State's D-line is fully loaded. That's really the matchup for me. Does he feel like his offensive line can be as physical as Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer and those guys up front, or is he going to let Cook stand back there and throw it over their heads first to set up the run?
Yeah. My biggest match I'm looking forward to is still on that side of the ball. It's Missouri's offensive line against Ohio State's defensive line. Missouri has had an incredible offensive line. As you mentioned, Javon Foster, one of the top left tackles in the country. Connor Tollison, their center, has been one of the best centers in the country as well. The entire O-line has really been really good. Missouri's offensive line as a unit has earned a 79.1 grade this year. that only trails Oregon State and Georgia among Power 5 offensive lines this year. So Missouri is the third highest graded offensive line in the Power 5 this year, and their 85.9 run blocking grade is second among Power 5 offensive lines, trailing only Oregon State. So they've been a really, really good run blocking unit, creating holes for Cody Schrader to run through. But you go against the Ohio State defensive line, man. Ohio State's defensive line is the second highest graded D line in the country, only behind Michigan this year. So Ohio State has superstars on that line between Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Michael Hall Jr., Tyleik Williams. They've had a really, really good D line. So obviously Tuimoloau and Michael Hall Jr., whether or not they play is a huge X factor in this matchup. But even if they don't play, I still think it'll be a really, really awesome heavyweight bout that we get in the trenches as well. The other thing I'm looking forward to, obviously, is what Devin Brown looks like, because he hasn't really started a game yet in his career. He's kind of played sparingly in his career. He's had 89 snaps total. He suffered a pretty serious injury against Penn State, but he is actually recovered in time to play in this game. But yeah, like I said, 89 snaps in his career, former 5-star recruit coming out of high school. In fact, On3, not the industry rating, but On3 themselves, they had Devin Brown as the number 1 overall recruit in the class coming out in 2022. So he might be the guy next year. With Ohio State kind of striking out on everyone else in the transfer portal, between Riley Leonard going to Duke, Cameron Ward, obviously probably pretty much down to Miami or Florida State, it seems like Ohio State might just be saying, okay, we lost Kyle McCord. We got to go with Devin Brown now. Again, there are worse options than Devin Brown. He's a former 5-star recruit, so he's got talent. But we'll see now. I'm really interested in seeing our first kind of extended look at Devin Brown in this game and how he looks against Missouri, and a really good secondary in Missouri as well. So I'm really excited to see what Devin Brown can do in his kind of first start for Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, this is a good Missouri secondary he's throwing into. If Marvin Harrison plays, the new best matchup might be him versus Chris Abrams-Drain.
Yeah.
Look, this Missouri secondary is really good. This is a big test, and I've told you before, they bring a lot of pressure in kind of weird schematic ways, a lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes, a lot of simulated pressure. They present a lot of problems up front, and especially Ohio State in the interior is not the best with pass protection. Missouri, I'm betting right now, is scheming ways to mess mentally with the interior offensive line of Ohio State. And for a quarterback making your first start, this is not the most fun team to want to check protections and find the right guys hot and do those sorts of things, because Missouri, they're designed to mess with you up front, and they're adding talent now on the recruiting trail, but this is a hard first start, on top of the part where you may have to keep up and find a way to score 30 plus points against an explosive Missouri offense. This is a tough task for Devin Brown, and he could prove a lot in this game if he plays well.
Yeah, and honestly, you could prove that if he plays well, you could prove, hey, I'm the guy next year. I'm the starting quarterback for Ohio State next year. You don't need to worry about getting a transfer quarterback or anything like that. So I think it's a big, big game for him, not only for them winning the Cotton Bowl, for them in the future, and for his future at Ohio State as well. So I think it's a big game as well. And honestly, Emeka Egbuka against Chris Abrams-Drain will still be a great matchup, even if Marvin Harrison Jr. opts out either. So should be a really, really fun game. I'm really looking forward to it. Dalton, who do you think ultimately is winning the Cotton Bowl?
I have to, I think a theme in these bowl games, and it's going to be like this every year now with the portal, is just who am I more certain about? And in this game, I'm just more certain about Missouri. This is the same Missouri team that's played all season. Mm-hmm. There's no opt-outs, there's no portal, it's the same team. It's Cody Schrader, it's Brady Cook, it's Luther Burden, Javon Foster, Abrams-Drain. It's their team. Ohio State just has so much uncertainty, even with Harrison. If he were to play and Tuimoloau were to play and they were mostly loaded, they're still the team with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And if Ohio State's going to win this game, I think it's going to be low scoring, 17-13, somewhere in there. But I like how Missouri's looked against SEC defenses. I thought they played a very good game against Georgia. It was just at Georgia, and that's Georgia. I mean, what are you going to do, right? I thought their offense looked good against Georgia. Schrader especially. They have balance. I'm curious to see what Kirby Moore, pulls out of the bag with about 3 weeks to prepare. I just am more certain about Missouri. I'm going to take Missouri 31-24.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking Missouri as well in this game, 27-24. And I'm really looking forward to next year, because every New Year's Six game next year will be a playoff game. So that'll be good. At least the New Year's Six games will at least matter a lot more, and you won't see opt-outs, and you shouldn't see at least too many transfers that won't be playing those games because obviously they're playoff games. But I'm taking Missouri as well. 27-24, magical year for Missouri, man. I agree. I think their offense is going to do enough. They're the loaded team. You know, they're the team that is at full strength right now, whereas Ohio State is going to be without some key players. You know, they're without one of their top running backs in Chip Trayanum. They're without one of their top receivers in Julian Fleming, and they're obviously without their starting quarterback in Kyle McCord. So that's right now, at least. You know, there still could be more, like I said, down the line with some other 4 key players that might opt out of this game still. Whereas Missouri, you're not really have to worry about that too much. They're all kind of, you know, playing in this game, and this game matters a lot for Missouri. I'm sure a lot of Ohio State players are kind of disappointed they're not in the playoff right now. For Missouri, they're happy, man. This is like, yeah, we're in our first, you know, New Year's Six Bowl in a decade. This is a big deal for that program, and I think this might matter a little bit more to them. I think that they are going to cap off their magical season with a Cotton Bowl victory over an Ohio State team that's on a backup quarterback, like you said before. So both taking Missouri in this game, which still should be a great Cotton Bowl.